Hey guys, I'm Matthew Madigan, and I read the book Sophie by Emma Pierce over the summer, and I'm going to be doing a little book talk about that and how I felt and show you guys about the book. So, to start it off, the main character, Bridget Griffith, she's 16, a sophomore in high school, and she's the youngest of three children. She has an older brother and an older sister, and then her parents, who are Dave and Jan Griffith. Now, her older siblings all had dogs growing up, and Bridget was a little bit jealous because she was working two jobs during the Christmas time in the mall near her house, and they live on an island in Mackay, Australia, which is it's kind of a big island for the area, and she's been looking at this same dog in a pet shop, this little blue Australian cattle dog, for months, and she calls her mom, and her mom finally lets her get it after begging and begging, and she gets the dog, and she decides to name it Sophie because she wanted to name it a really girly name. So she's bonding with the dog, and she's had it for 2 years now, and then she has to go to college, and she's really sad that she has to leave Sophie behind. But during the time she's not there, Sophie is able to bond with her parents, Dave and Jan, and her parents, who had recently bought a boat called the Honey May, take Sophie on the boat. And it goes well several times. Sophie is a very loyal dog, listens very well, but one time they're going through a rough patch along islands St. Bees and Keswick, right off the coast of Mackay, and it's rough. So Dave and Jan are both on the top part of the boat by the steering wheel, and Sophie is at the bottom. And 10 minutes go by, and Dave goes down, and he sees Sophie has fallen off. So they look for several hours before nighttime looking for her, and they both feel horrible. And they are 5 nautical miles off of shore, which is very far. So after looking for her for a while, they decide to go in. They call Bridget, and the first time they call her, they can't bear to tell her. And the second time they call her, they tell her, and she's heartbroken. So Luke, who is Bridget's older brother, decides to get them another dog, and they name her Ruby. And Dave, Jan, and Bridget aren't sure about Ruby at first because she's a lot more wild than Sophie was, and she's not as smart and intelligent, but they still love her. So months go by, and Sophie ends up making it onto an island, but only native animals and flora, which are plants, can live there. So park rangers are called in to try and find her, but Sophie has been there for 6 months, and they're still trying to catch her, and they don't know what they're going to do with her, the park rangers, because they don't know if she has an owner or not. She's on an island that can't have unnative animals. So one of Jan's, who is Bridget's mom's best friend's son, is talking to the guy that owns the island that she's on. And he says there's a runaway Australian cattle dog there. And her son is thinking, oh wow, there's no way it could be my mom's best friend's dog. But he decides to tell his mom anyways. And her name is Heather. So Heather calls Jan, and she says, this is probably not even true, but there's an Australian cattle dog on the loose on St. Bees. And Jan calls the park rangers right away, and they're trying to find it. Now, let's go back to Sophie. She is on the island for 6 months, living off of dead goats because a long time ago the islands were used as goat farms, but they killed all the goats because the goats were destroying the plants. And Sophie swims across the Egremont Passage, which is a very tough, dangerous, strong current between islands that humans don't even want to go through. She swims across it to live as a dog. And Sophie also swam 5 nautical miles into land on Keswick Island after falling off the boat. Now, here's a spoiler alert. You can cut this out if you don't want to listen to it. But Sophie, she gets trapped by the park rangers, and the park rangers bring it back. And Jan and Dave are trying to get in communication with the park rangers, calling them up as much as they can. They finally answer, so they decide to do a meetup on the dock where Jan and Dave keep their boat, the Honey May, and they see her, and Sophie is irritated and kind of growling at the park rangers, but when Dave and Jan call her name, she sticks her ears up and she starts whining, and Dave and Jan are able to reunite with their dog. And here are some pictures of all of them, Sophie and Ruby. Here is Sophie, she's right here, and there, that's Jan with Sophie. And Ruby and Sophie, right there, they're both cattle dogs. And from this book, from Goodreads.com, a reader gave Sophie, the dog, herself, a 5 stars for surviving, but the book itself a 1. I can agree with this because the book was very slow and it had unnecessary facts because, for example, Sophie had been on an island, St. Bees, that had koalas, and they were afraid that she was eating koalas, so they had several pages about facts of koalas, the different breeds, the different kinds, what koalas do, and I felt that they were unnecessary for the story and they made it longer and more boring. And Kirkus Review says the book is a, quote, a treat for dog lovers, and I could agree with that because I have 2 dogs myself, 2 golden retrievers right here. So I was definitely happy that Sophie was found. And well, I would give this book a 3 out of 5 because I liked the story. It was very heartwarming that Sophie was found. It was a great story to write about. It's a true story. I felt that the book was slow and boring though, and that it could have used a little more spark or just been cut down a little bit. But that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.